Ben Mankiewicz, joined by, one of the preeminent directors of his generation, Spike Lee. Spike, thanks for being here. Means a lot.
How you doing?
I'm doing all right. Not only is he one of the preeminent directors of his generation, Spike is also one of the preeminent Knick fans of his generation.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm going to the game right from here.
Spike wanted to explain.
To my courtside seat. I'm on the wood.
Spike Lee has programmed a double feature
Right.
tonight. Is going to bring us Elia Kazan's film written by Bud Schulberg, who's important to Spike as well, Facing the Crowd, which will be our first movie, and then we'll move to Billy Wilder's 1951 film Ace in the Hole with Kirk Douglas. Why these two movies? What draws them together for you?
Well, these two films show the underbelly of America. Both these films were considered flops. Facing the Crowd coming after On the Waterfront.
Right.
And
Ace in the Hole
coming after Sunset Boulevard.
Yeah.
These films got killed, but I think it's some of their finest work.
You teach these films together.
Yes, I'm a tenured professor at the best film school in the world. Not USC,
UCLA?
not AFI, UCLA. I mean, Francis went there, but
Yeah.
NYU, graduate film school.
Yeah.
And I've been teaching there 30 years. The last 10 I've been tenured. And I have shown Ace in the Hole
And A Face in the Crowd.
and the Face of Crowd to my class.
How do young kids respond to these movies?
Great. The first day of class, I said, there were some great films made before you were born, and they're in black and white. So my job as a teacher exposes the films that you haven't seen before. And every time I show a film that they haven't seen, they love it. So we show the film, we have a discussion afterwards.
So, Facing the Crowd, with a screenplay by Bud Schulberg, directed by Elia Kazan, great movie.
Bud had the crystal ball. Television, how it's intertwined with politics.
Yeah, I thought, man, how did Schulberg know there was going to be a Glenn Beck and a Bill O'Reilly? Then comes 2016, and you're like, wait, forget Glenn Beck and Bill O'Reilly. How did they know there's going to be a Donald Trump? Because at some point you figured out this guy doesn't have to set up somebody else to be president. Why doesn't this guy just be president?
You know, one thing I could see right off about a big city. There's a whole lot of people in trouble out there.
Even though Andy Griffith hated that role, he was amazing in that film.
Yeah, it's a shame that Andy Griffith didn't like it, because you realize in this movie, like, that guy could have had a career he didn't have to be Andy from Mayberry. He could have had a career in the movies. I mean, he was good enough to have a career in the movies.
And also, you're leaving something out.
I'm sure I am. Wouldn't be the first time.
What is Vitajex?
Vitajex, what you doing to me? You fill me full of and ecstasy.
It's Viagra.
Right, early, right.
Well, but I'm giving you another something with Bud. Vitajex, what you doing to me? And that commercial for the animated commercial, that thing is bananas.
Totally.
That is insane.
In a sense, it's amazing.
Bud was,
I'm surprised.
It came out 56, Pride wrote a 56. Who was thinking about Viagra in 56?
Well, I suspect millions and millions of men. But,
Yeah,
but the idea that there would be a pill. But of course, in the movie, there's people will see, they're just making it up, right? It's just a pep pill, right? But he's like, what if we pretended, right?
Yeah, but it's still the thought.
The thought that there could be a pill. Yeah.
And they have a television commercial. And then
I'm amazed that it got that part of the movie it got past the censors. Like, that's crazy.
that film, I hope people watch this film because they were like way ahead of the curve.
Talking a little bit about Vitajex and how
Vitajex, what's it doing to me? Do the boom, 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 boom.
boom. So yeah, Anthony Francioso, like
He's a weasel.
Yeah, he's a weasel, but he's good, right? I mean, he's a good guy to have on your side until he sleeps with your
You
wife.
also put in Sweet Smell of Success. Like this is the same type of that world, you know.
1957, by the way, which I think is the best year Hollywood had, arguably. Certainly better.
Yeah, I was born.
That's right, 1957. The first Spike Lee joint. So 1957, Facing the Crowd. You just mentioned Sweet Smell of Success, also 57. Paths of Glory, Stanley Kubrick. 12 Angry Men. I haven't even gotten to Bridge on the River Kwai, which won the Oscar, but those movies, like, man, that's amazing.
Can I just say something?
Yeah.
The whole thing of Malcolm X, I'm jumping, but we wanted Malcolm X to be on the scale of David Lean's films.
Oh,
Doc
you-
Zhivago, Lawrence Arabia, and Bridge River Choir.
Yeah. So one of the things that I take away from A Face in the Crowd is, so right at the end of the movie, he's had this huge meltdown. He's been humiliated on television. He's insulted his very viewers. And yet Matthau says,
You're going to be back in television. Only it won't be quite the same as it was before. There'll be a reasonable cooling off period, and then somebody will say, why don't we try him again in an inexpensive format? People's memories aren't too long.
of course, he's right. There would be a comeback for a guy like that.
And then where he's up in the top of the skyscraper, yelling, screaming.
Yeah. She's not worried about him. He could jump, not jump. But as Walter Matthau says, he's not the jumping type. He's not going to
That
jump.
film, I know I'm repeating myself, that film is so far ahead of 1957.
Totally.
And
yeah.
they definitely have the crystal ball. And years later, Patty Chayefsky and Sid Lumet get together and they add to that.
In network, yeah. So last thing then about A Face in the Crowd before we move on though, I want to believe that your kids, the kids you teach at NYU where you were a tenured professor, they respond to
Oh,
it.
yes.
They still do. Yes.
I tell them there's some great SH made before you were born.
Yeah.
And that's when I want to show you stuff that you have not seen. Foreign cinema too.
Yeah, of course. Right.
So because, I mean, the great thing about when I was in film school, I was introduced to world cinema, stuff that I'm not going to see on Channel 9 or Channel 5, you know, or in the theaters.
Yeah. It turns out, what do you know? France, Germany, Spain, Italy, Japan, India, they also knew how to tell stories on
Yes.
screen. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. Great, great filmmakers.
Yeah.
And if you want to be a filmmaker, I just think that you should have a well-rounded view of filmmakers from different parts of the world. Also, the great filmmakers that come from, that not just come out of Hollywood.
Spike has programmed a double feature. We just had from 1957, Face in the Crowd, written by Bud Schulberg, directed by Elia Kazan. Up next, co-written by Billy Wilder, directed by Wilder, Kirk Douglas stars in Ace in the Hole. This film, like A Face in the Crowd, is so far ahead of its time. Kirk Douglas plays a reporter. He loses a job in the big city, New York, comes out, gets a job in New Mexico, barely getting by, and he comes upon a story that he gets lucky. A guy named Leo Minosa is digging in a cave.
It's a burial ground. Right.
Inside a cave, and there's a collapse, and he's trapped.
Tell me, Leo, how did it happen?
I guess I crawled in too far this time. You've got to find a good one. Back there, it's pretty well cleaned out. But I found me a beauty. Worth $50 any day. Then the whole floor caved in under me. I guess maybe they didn't want me to have it.
It's a baby stuck in a well story, right? Like we're going to get the guy out in time. And Kirk Douglas recognizes this as his opportunity. Again,
To
chasing.
get back to New York.
Get back to New York, get back to the big time, start
He
making.
talks about, I want to go back to Broadway, Yogi Berra,
Right.
the Yankees. I want to get back to the big time.
Right. He's less interested in telling the truth about the story and more interested in he's the first person chasing the money. Then everybody starts chasing the money because what develops then as this story goes on and on is it
National story.
becomes a national story.
But he's the only one that's allowed to go into the mountain.
and talk to this guy.
And talk to this guy.
Talk to Leo, yeah. And it's a carnival atmosphere. They're selling corn dogs. It becomes an event. People are coming. Tourists are coming to the town just to see the story about the man trapped in the cave. And audiences around the country were not interested in this movie.
They were not feeling it. Because Billy Wilder was showing you, this is America.
Yeah.
And they weren't 51, they weren't buying that.
It's written by Walter Newman, Lester Samuels, and Billy Wilder. Give them all credit for this really
Yes,
great
yes, yes.
screenplay. But this was, to me, this is my favorite Wilder film. I don't know if it's his best
More
film.
than Sunset Boulevard?
More than Sunset Boulevard, more than Double Indemnity, more than Stalag 17. Don't get me wrong, I love Billy Wilder. I mean, one after another.
Great director.
Right.
And I got the
Lost-
chance to meet him and talk for like 2 hours. He was signing all my stuff.
You brought in, so you had Billy Wilder sign stuff?
Yeah. Hello, may I speak to Billy Wilder? We'll connect you now.
You just called the main number at Paramount?
Yes. They put me straight into him. He picked up the phone. He said, yes, I know you are, Spike. I like your films. I said, you don't need to know? I said, come on over. The guy every day would come to his office
He was waiting for
He
people
had his
to
own
come.
off and just like working on stuff, but everybody knew he's not going to make another film. But he was coming to that office every single day.
Nancy Myers and her husband, Charles Shire, they were making a movie, Baby Boom, with Diane Keaton. And they asked, essentially with you, they're like, can we collaborate with Billy Wilder? You have him under, he's here. And he loved it. He got to talk about movies, got to tell his stories.
And here's the thing, though. Whether if you're a great athlete, artist, filmmaker, you get to an age and you think, do people remember who I am? Am I just like an old fuddy-duddy? And then when people acknowledged, like the first time I met Kazan, he was on the Upper West Side. He's living in a flat. I had to walk like 8 flights up the building.
You had to walk up
There was no elevator in the building.
Because Ann lived in in a building with no elevator?
Yes.
Oh, man.
And Bud Schulberg, connected us. And I must have stayed there for 5 hours, man, because they know they're not going to be around long, but they just get, they're just acknowledgement, like I'm not forgotten. And the same thing with Kazan, I saw Billy Wilder in his office on the lot.
Yeah. You love that last shot.
I think that's one of the greatest final shots of any movie in the history of cinema. The last 10 minutes, Kirk Douglas bleeding out.
Right. Finally getting a conscience. Finally doing the right thing, but paying the price for it.
And he goes back to the newspaper office.
Right.
That he stumbled upon.
With his boss with the belt and the suspenders.
Yeah, he said, never trust a man who wears a belt and suspenders.
That's right, yeah.
And then later on, you see him he sees Kurt wearing a belt suspenders. And then he's bleeding out. And then he falls dead. And the camera is right there in front of his face. They were telling some truths about America. Americans weren't ready for. Yeah. They weren't ready for it.
Yeah, well, I mean, especially in 51, television's pretty new in people's homes in 51. By 57, television has become a significant threat to Hollywood. Like 51, Hollywood wasn't even reacting to television, wasn't even taking it seriously. But we see it in
But here's the thing, though.
Yeah, I mean, the TV crews were out there in Ace in the Hole.
If I may say this, though, without the success of On the Waterfront and Sunset Boulevard, they would not have been able to make those films.
Right. Nobody, no director without that success would have got those movies made. Yeah.
Not even them. Those two, the biggest directors at the time in Hollywood. But they had to have the success of Sunset Boulevard On the Waterfront to make these two films that are really holding up a mirror to America. And Americans did not like what they saw in that mirror.
No,
at
that's
all.
right. That's right. Face in the Crowd didn't do well at the box office. Ace in the Hole also didn't. And again, these movies suggested things about the media and suggested things about America that Americans were not ready to hear.
Not that America.
Are those morons out there?
I toss them a dead fish and they'll flap their flippers.
Circus is over.
To say these movies are still relevant today is a gigantic understatement. You could just change a couple of things and tell the same story.
They had the crystal ball.
Spike, thank you. This was
Thank
great.
you.
I appreciate it.
And thank you for watching this, because these are two of my favorite films.
You teach these films to your class?
Yes, I showed this to my class, Inmate Graduate Film School. And we have very good discussions after we show these films.
Well, I'm glad you're showing it to young people, getting them interested in these films. Thank you.
They're great films. And as I said before, the first day of class, I tell them, I'm going to show you films that were made before you were born. And they might be in black and white. There was some great SH made before you were born.
Thank you for doing that. Spike Lee, everybody.
Peace and love.